Good evening. Okay, looks like everything's working. Always a good time. What's up, geeks, and welcome to Investigation Shack, our regular, irregular interview show where we dive into the lives of geeky creators to learn about their hobbies, passions, and untold stories behind our favorite content. I'm your host, Joe, and I'm thrilled to have you join me on this quest. For tonight's episode, we have lore lover and storyteller, VagusTheWanderer. What's up, Vagus?
Yeah. Wow, I'm doing great, man. And it is pronounced Vegas.
Vegas,
but
okay.
it's okay. It's okay. It's a very a lot of nurses and doctors might know it because it's actually a ode to the vagus nerve, which is actually the largest cranial nerve, or the largest nerve we have in our body.
All right. Well, I feel like I should have asked you how to say your name before I started the show then.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
So what's up? Where can people find you?
Oh yeah. So you guys, my name is Jalen Torres. Though you might know me better as VagusTheWanderer, full-time logistics coordinator, part-time karaoke enthusiast, and yes, my rendition of Sex on Fire by Kings of Leon is legendary. A seasonal book reader. I try to start reading around spring because that's when my brain wakes up after hibernation. But let's be real, the thing I'm really full-time about is role-playing. So you can find me at VagusTheWanderer at most social medias.
Okay. I put your link tree in the chat for everyone to be able to jump on those links and track you down there. Which one do you prefer? Like for people to find you the most?
If you want to reach out to me directly, VagusTheWanderer, but I am part of the Looking for More community, which I'm sure we'll get into, which is a community of adventurers, players, and creatives that came together through the Start Playing Games sphere, actually. Shout out to Nate and Devin over there. We appreciate you guys.
Okay. Well, if that's that, then let's dive into tonight's episode. First and foremost, where did your geeky creator journey start? What was your first introduction to the geek space?
Yeah, so as a kid, I was one of those kids where I had no problem inserting places where I had interest, right? I played a lot of sports growing up and also played a lot of video games. And it would have been a big reader ever since I was a young child. I remember really cultivating my love of reading in 3rd to 4th grade, where I'd read a ton of Junie B. Jones by Barbara Park, right? And Choose Your Own Adventure books actually were huge for me and kind of end up really hitting that itch that tabletop RPGs do now. And as I've grown older, I've really taken the series and different books to heart to really grow my passion for role playing.
So what was some of your favorite books, series, or video games growing up?
Yeah, and so my favorite video games growing up had to be I love Sonic. I love those types of games and those scrollers, but those heavy story-driven RPGs, your Fallouts, your Mass Effects, your Elder Scrolls. But I also have this itch where I am obsessed with 4X and strategy games.
Okay.
So your Civ games, your StarCraft, your Humankind, I eat that crap up. I love it. I'm I can't wait to go through the Iron Age and take over this landmass. I love it. I love the whole thing of it. It really scratches a certain itch for me. And really, honestly, all of that kind of turned into me inevitably trying out table games when I was in middle school with Warhammer 40K. All hail the Emperor.
Okay. What's your army?
Blood Angels, actually.
Okay. All right.
I had about a 3,000 point Blood Angels army.
Damn.
Yeah, I spent a lot of money as a middle schooler.
So at what point, besides Warhammer 40K, do you kind of get into the more storytelling, role-playing side of the hobby?
So I think I always kind of was into the role-playing, space. As a kid, like there was various plays I was into, whether at church or school, and then just being out with your friends, right? Playing cops and robbers or playing different, storytelling games with your friends, doing text-based things, doing text-based stories based off of RuneScape,
Okay.
which was a time, right? So it was very interesting to be in such a um, concentrated nerd time where I grew up, being born in the 90s and then growing up in where internet was getting more popular and stuff like that. It really didn't start formally into like the D&D and Call of Cthulhu, which is the two games I started with, until after I started auditioning for plays as a
Okay.
grown adult, having played all the sports and getting past that time and after high school and afterwards doing club men's rugby and things like that. I'm like, I have this itch to be creative. I want to engage with people, whether it's through improv or through nerd space, right? Because I used to, have times where I would be with some of my teammates on a Saturday practice after getting smashed on a game on Friday, where we're improving roles on the sideline because we just are so bored on a Saturday, So improving, role playing, and just kind of being a nerd and being out there has always been kind of part of my blood.
So what is like your first introduction then to like D&D, or what did you play first, D&D or Call of Cthulhu?
At the same time,
Okay.
I started playing Call of Cthulhu on Saturdays at the same time that I played Wednesday. That's for a long term.
Mm-hmm.
So I did play D&D for the first time with a few friends at my home, and I was bestowed the name Wad Wad Longfingers
Okay.
as a joke, but playing a Ghostwise halfling Circle of the Moon Druid.
Okay. So how long did that game go on?
That went on for about a half a year,
Okay.
very short home game. We all died. But
Okay.
me and the sorcerer rode into battle against a dragon where I was like this giant snake and they were riding on me, and it was great. That's how you want to go out.
Riding on the back of a giant snake. So which between the two, which kind of the systems are pretty different. I mean, I haven't played Call of Cthulhu, but from what I understand, they're the two very different systems. Which kind of do you enjoy more, and what are the reasons for that?
Yeah, so Call of Cthulhu, I would say like the skills and such of it scratches an itch because like you go up to 99, right? So like something we're familiar with, whether you play video games and things like that, you're like your skills go up to 100, right? So there's that percentage, and you use percentile die, and I'm also obsessed with like the 1920s 30s era, and you throw like otherworldly eldritch horrors,
Yeah.
and then also like I prefer pulp, so you throw the possibility of me facing these eldritch hordes and I'm like, yes, sign me up, these are my comic book fantasy dreams. So that's I do have a very special place in my heart for Call of Cthulhu, but I am also obsessed with swords and sorcery and things like that. So D&D will have that special part. But I have to say, if I would choose one, someone was like, "Oh, you're at a party, you have to play D&D or Call of Cthulhu," I'm like, grab me some tequila, we're playing Call of Cthulhu.
Okay. All right. So at what point do you start to kind of get into content creation? Because I know you have a history of content creation besides just the projects you're working on now. Like what started that?
Yeah, honestly, so back in high school, I started with a YouTube channel called Truth from J&J, which is just basically me as an angsty teenage boy, spilling out things like, pickup lines, right, that are just outrageous, or what do guys hate about girls and girls hate about guys. And I thought that I had the best insight because I grew up with four sisters, so of course I knew what women hate about men, right? But they amassed some attention. I think at one point I had around 2,000 followers. I think now 14 years later it's around 1,000. But even still, it's nothing I've touched and nothing I've thought about going to. Even though I love being a comedian. I love those like skitty, like random type of a comedic, skits. But
Mhm.
at the same time, you can do that through D&D and like the
Yeah.
TTRPG sphere. I can be silly and be all these different things while also having a lot of fun and rolling dice.
So does your experience having made that channel in the past kind of dictate how you go about making content now?
So honestly, it that channel is what kind of prevented me and is why I had such a long hiatus. Is like, okay, I did decent while really not giving much care,
Mhm.
right? And now that I try to do everything intentionally, you get kind of this like perfection, type of imposter syndrome where you're like, am I good enough as well?
Mhm.
Is like, can I produce anything like this in a new sphere of something I care about? And then you have to move to the point where you're like, if I would watch me, who cares? You know
Right.
what I mean?
Right. So at what point do we come into the modern day of you getting on streams, getting out there, and like what is that process like for you to kind of start to come into this space in the creative sense?
Yeah, so I've been streaming through Matt Balogh, a top GM on Start Playing Games, for like 3 years, really consistently, weekly on Wednesday and Sunday. Actually, just dropped Sunday because we were going through the fables of Ghost Fighting Gaming. I'm not sure if you're familiar with those, but those are great written little episodic adventures that like I love them so much that I am a person that I try to be the forever player unless
Mhm.
I am GMing for kids. I will GM the Citadel of the Unseen Sun by Ghostfire Gaming for all of my friends for all of eternity.
So is it Fables like the comic book it's based off of, or
No, so it's based on, they call them fables because they're like little episodic stories.
okay?
And so they had one called Citadel of the Unseen Sun. That was the first one, which explores a world of the undead and vampires actually in a war. And then they move on to their Pirates of the Ethereal, which is like this ethereal expanse pirate adventure. And then they move on to a more thematic, like super spy agent fable for the
Okay.
last one, which we just finished up not too long ago, which was real cool.
And they can catch those on the
Ghostfire Gaming, and
Ghostfire
yeah,
Gaming.
you can watch us. We played through those. If you just look up GM Balogh,
Uh-huh. I have the Twitch.
Balogh.
I have the
Yeah,
Twitch
it's on
posted
there.
in the chat now.
Yep, it's in there. You just look up for the Sunday games. You go scroll back a little bit. You can start all the way from the beginning when we started with Citadel of Unseen Sun.
Okay. So how did you like get into this space? Was there an do you know did you come in with a team and you guys decided to make the channel and kind of go through that, or was there like an interview in audition process for you to come onto the channel?
Yeah, so for this one, this was through GM Balogh and Start Playing Games, right? When we went through the more serious ones where we were putting everything into our production, that was really what created Looking for More. And that was us just being tapped on the shoulder, like, so you have been promoted. Where we kind of just like, hey, Matt was like, hey, we have this group of players, we want to try this. And a lot of us that obviously were tapped on the shoulder said yes because we were very passionate about role play. So
Okay. And how that started how long ago again?
Looking for More has actually been recording for the last 2 months. We are trying to release 6 to 8 episodes before we put everything out
Okay.
episodically. And so summer is a busy month for all of us, unfortunately, especially with all the cons. So, but we're players that have played with Matt and found each other through start playing games and have built friendships through our community that has been together for about 4 years.
And that's looking for more is what the channel you're launching, right?
Yes.
Okay. Just want to make sure I had that right. No, so people can subscribe to that now. And
Yeah.
do you have a idea for when you're going to start releasing?
Yeah, so we want to release like towards the end of this year. We are still, like I said, recording, and we also know that. So we're actually playing a game through the Cipher system,
Okay.
and it's called The Strange. So it's like Mystery Inc. meets the multiverse,
Okay.
and we know that Monty Cook Games are doing a lot of interesting things on their side in terms of streaming. So that's something that we're actually talking about, maybe even introducing ourselves with that, just to kind of get our stance and footing in somewhere where people are familiar with the Cipher system.
And what about the Cypher system? Do you enjoy, like when you're using that system? How do you feel about it? Not
Yeah,
necessarily enjoy it, but what are your thoughts on that system?
yeah. So I actually like. So I'm a person who has no problem saying and thinking up of things like, "Hey, I want to, I see this car. I don't have particular skills for this, and that, but I find this thing in the street and I want to try to open it." Right? These different, or I see that there's this guy who looks kind of sketchy in the alley, and I want to ask him who are like the different employers in this block, right? Kind of helping create that world with the GM and that open role playing space that the Cipher system gives you. It's
Mhm.
like, okay, you have these set like abilities, but like that doesn't prevent you from being more than that.
Okay. So what do you feel like you get a different storytelling opportunities with the Cypher system as opposed to like the D20 system?
I think you do. And I because your base main stats are those three, right?
Mhm.
Your like your speed and your intelligence, right? So if you're able to kind of use your general skills based off of those attributes, it kind of gives you the freedom to not stay in the box, right? Just
Okay.
because you're a person that happens to talk to ghost or something doesn't mean you can't punch someone in the face.
Right. Okay. Um. So how does being a content creator in this space kind of affect you on do you feel like the pressure from having to produce content and people's expectations of what that should mean for them and for you? Do you ever feel like that the pressure there to create things a certain way?
I try, definitely as a start, you kind of get in this space where you're like, oh, like, you're looking at views, right? And the touches, right? But at the same time, what you have to realize is that people feel authenticity. So if I generally am passionate about what I'm putting out there, whether it's reviewing Bloodpunk 5e, which is like my next thing coming up for this Halloween season coming is by Dream Realm Storytellers. It's like I like this, and like I think people should like this too. And if I put it out there in a way that's consumable,
Mhm.
why not?
Are you putting that review out as like a review of the system, or you're playing the game and then giving your thoughts?
Yeah, so I'm actually going to go through the setting,
Okay.
go through some of the subclasses, and then after kind of reviewing the realm, I will be playing with some of my friends locally. And I'm blessed to live in a place that is an hour less. east of the conception of Dungeons and Dragons,
Oh,
right?
wow.
So there's a
Okay.
lot of nerds
Yeah.
around here. And so I'll have some friends that are in the Twitch space and in some gamers in the trading card game community, all coming together to play this spooky dark fantasy setting. So I'm really excited for that, and most of them are camera friendly. I'm going to open it to them to get on the camera,
Okay.
but yeah, if not, then I'll be having reviews for it for sure.
Okay. And that's going to be on which channel?
That's good. You can find that on Vegas the Wanderer.
Okay. So when you're getting these new systems and you're looking into producing something or producing a show or reviewing a system, is it solely based on what you're interested in, or do you take like, oh, my community would probably really like to hear about this, let me do that, or is it mostly just you being like, this is what I'm passionate about, this is what I want to do? How do you balance those two things?
Yeah, like I love the viewers, right? But at the same time, if I'm not passionate about what I am presenting, they're gonna feel that.
Yeah.
So if it's cool to me, like I'm gonna do it. I've tried different systems, like actually the Witcher system, which I actually love and would love to get into more, because the witch or like the sorcerer that was in our party lost an arm in the first battle, and I was like, yes, this is everything. I was like, yeah, this is the encouragement. We're losing limbs. Count me in, please. So there are systems that I'd love to get into more, but even when I was a kid, as you can probably tell, I've had a field of interest that is a mile wide and a foot deep. So I also have to learn sometimes to reel myself in and just be like, hey, this is what matters to you right now. Let's put some more into that.
Uh-huh. So throughout this whole journey that you've gone through, is there ever been like a project or collaboration that's been like really meaningful to you that you've got to experience in the space?
Honestly, so kind of actually going back to someone I mentioned a little bit before. So we're actually bringing out some player create character interviews through our new actual play coming out, Looking for More, through the Strange. And those interviews are actually being conducted by a gentleman in the gaming sphere named Petros. Petros is from Honto Gaming as well as Dravenwood. He is a wood crafter who's created dice boxes and different tabletop accessories, but he is also an artist, a musician. If you are familiar with post-hardcore bands out of Chicago, you might know him. But he's also he's a huge nerd that also loves like Pokemon and has a trading card gaming company and things like that. So he will be conducting those interviews as a GM and player and lover of D&D himself and different tabletop RPGs, kind of getting into where we've been, where we come from, and some of the motivations behind our characters.
That sounds fun. I know you've talked about you've had a lot of opportunities that have kind of like come to you, and you've accepted those, and you know really enjoyed that process. Has there been any challenges that you've like anything you've tried to get that you just were denied, or any challenges that you've had to face in your content creation journey?
Yeah, honestly, I feel like most of my rejections have been outside of this sphere.
Okay.
You know, like going out for plays and things like that. Because I just, I want to be the best role player, improver, and actor that I can be. Right. I care much about being enveloped in a role. As I said, trying to be the forever player. I think that especially with the books that I've read and the type of character development and the emotion that can go into being a certain character, I try to take a lot of pride of it, but I also haven't been in a play since I was probably 10 years old. So it's a very new sphere to me, but I'm always looking for more opportunities in the TTRPG space to put value into being a player into that space.
So, what is it about being a player? Have you ever tried DMing on like a bigger scale besides just kids, or is it do you? What about DMing for children? You find rewarding, or is it just like I can just fuck around with these kids?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both, right?
Yeah.
So I grew up in a home, a daycare home, right? So I grew up with kids. Most of my sisters are all younger than me, and so I grew up in a sphere where just attending to kids and seeing them grow and seeing those lights sparkle in their eyes, like brings me some sort of happiness, So I love fucking with the kids, but at the same time, I love the opportunities they get to be bold,
Hmm.
right, and to not be afraid and like assert themselves in a world that might seem so fake to us, but at the same time it's so real to them, and we feel that too, right?
Hmm.
I'm a big fan of bleed when it comes to role playing. Like, I want to feel what my character's feeling. If they cry, I want to cry. And like, I eat that up, and kids get into that. They have no problem bleeding into those characters that they create,
Hmm.
because I think Kate said it best, right? Is that these memories we have as players, and that's Kate the Great cosplaying. These memories that we have as players, they stick to us like they are actually our memories.
Yeah.
And that's important for a kid, especially if they have memories of being bold and taking on monsters. Like, that's what empowers people to be great, and also to have a voice that deserves, and they know that should be listened to.
When's the last time you were able to DM a game for children?
Oh man, so I actually DM for my son, like one-on-one,
Hmm.
quite often. But him and one of my friends, Arceli, she has two sons, and we're gonna get together and get the boys together. So we're gonna do a new thing from Starport, getting that. And there's actually a few. I was at Gen Con, and there was a few more systems and different things that people threw out at me after hearing that I do that for kids. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to get into it, and
Nice.
look at all the other systems that there are for them.
That's awesome. Is there what's the disconnect then for you DMing for like adults and stuff like that? Is it just you don't get the same energy from it, or?
I'm about to do it. All right. So with this blood punk, right? That's the whole thing. Is for me to, talk about a system that might be new for people, and then going about jamming it, and then reviewing how it is, right? So
Hmm.
for me, that's going to be very new and very exciting. I think I'm fun, so I think I can only just cultivate a space for people to have fun and to get spooky.
Okay. So when you're kind of going through and making these characters or making these stories, is there any specific like franchises or characters that you find yourself pulling on a lot, or is it a lot of self-insert?
Wow. Yeah, I think it's a little bit of self-insert, but like I said, I'm a huge book fan.
Yeah.
There's some series like that have, especially lately, have really hit me hard. And like, you have the writer Revelation slash Chronicles by Michael J. Sullivan. Those involve like two gentlemen, one more shady roguelite named Royce, and then you have Hadrian, the two-sworded with a big, huge, bastard sword, who is doesn't use that unless he means serious business, but he usually has like the light banter, doesn't really care, likes to dance. But then you have the grumpy old like rogue, like, and they cultivate this huge bromance that you love. But the way that the story is very character driven,
Hmm.
it's and has very intricate world building. So like, there's things that you can go back on and see them, and you're like, oh, like they did this in this book, and that's what happened to this. Like, Michael J. Sullivan is an amazing storyteller. Please read his books or listen to them; they're amazing. And it basically taught me, like, through role playing, that like these character journeys, these personal journeys that these character had that all connect, can sometimes be more important than the grander plot.
Yeah.
And they're fun, right? Like I think that especially when watching actual plays, that my favorite relationships or characters are somebody that have kind of known each other coming in, right? They have this like built emotional connection.
Right.
And that kind of moves on to like from actual plays, I actually start really getting into lit RPGs. In those literature RPGs, like He Who Fights with Monsters or Dungeon Crawler Carl, which has actually been picked up by Seth MacFarlane,
Okay.
and is going to become a TV show, which I highly recommend listening to that series. Is like, since it's kind of like that isekai, like they're thrown into a whole new world, it's pure chaotic fun, right?
Yeah.
It's both series kind of dive into like what happens when ordinary people are thrown into extraordinary situations. And that's something I try to bring into roleplay, making sure that like no matter how crazy or intense the game is, like there's always that little room for humor and absurdity.
Yeah.
So, and then like I don't know if you've seen the Three Body Problem, right?
Yes.
So that story, that book is from The Remembrance of Earth's Past by Liao Saixing. And it makes me think of a more like cosmic scale, and it's a reminder that like TTRPGs can explore massive and existential questions and still keep the players grounded in the here and now, right? So that like not to spoil anything, but these people are put in the situations where they have an impending doom that they know that is coming, right? And those his like approaches to time and space and the fragility of humanity is something that I like to channel when I'm crafting like those characters or getting into those type of campaign spaces, like the Call of Cthulhu
Yeah.
or the Strange from the Cypher system.
Okay. What do you find most rewarding about being part of like this geek community and creating content in this space?
I mean, just interacting with all these creative people. I mean, I think it's very seldom that you're in a sphere where people that are and even can be more talented than you or have more out there than you, they are just encouraging to you as the next person. And I think that it's such a close knit and family that tries to build other people. I think the interactions between curators is some of the most genuine interactions in a certain nerd space that I felt, which is kind of ironic considering how some may feel most D&D groups if you go into a random store where
Yeah.
they have access to that, right? It's usually like, no, these are our dice right here. And kind of like the online openness to it and us having, series on Prime that we can attest to, like, oh, this is D&D, and we have a movie and things like that kind of make it more popular, right?
Yeah. So what kind of advice would you give to people that are trying to come into this space? Like, because you were there at one point with like those first few steps. What advice do you have for those people trying to take those first steps and come into this space?
Yeah, I mean, just do it, right? And try everything. If you have interest in it, put it out there, because you'll end up eventually seeing what works for you. And if you don't have passion for it and if it's not working for you, switch it up. Like, don't give up. There's a pointy hat, Antonio D'Amico says it perfectly. I went to one of his panels. He says, I haven't found that special one channel that isn't funny, isn't like it's funny, it's enjoyable, and it doesn't have any views. You know what I mean? So if you're passionate, you are putting out good content, it's funny, it's relatable, people can digest it easily, people are going to come to you. Just be able to take a look at what you put out there and say, well, I watch this while I'm on the porcelain throne. It's kind of it.
So do you have any like tips or advice for people trying to build the community in this? Because taking that first step is one thing. How do you go to the next step where you're trying to actually get people in to you to put their eyes on you?
Well, you go to certain events like an SPG meet and greet you meet a nice bearded man and you yell at the top of your lungs at the bar together, and then you're here doing interviews. No, but seriously, honestly, it's finding community,
Yeah.
right? It's finding those group of people that you're like, oh, they're doing it, like I can do it too. They're hyping me up. I love this. This is great. It's like it's the team before they go out on the field and they're doing 1, 2, 3 team. It's that camaraderie and that hypiness that kind of gets you to go, hey, I'm a part of this. My voice matters too. And that's kind of what I'm all about,
Mm-hmm.
is making sure the voices are heard.
How do you go about doing that?
Just meeting everyone I can, playing all the games I can, and then also encouraging any player that I see and feel. I think I'm a pretty empathetic person. If I feel or see that someone's having a time expressing themselves as a character or as a person in, just a player in the TTRPG space, I reach out to them like, hey, I would love for you to have fun. It seems like you're not having fun. What can we do to make you have fun, right? Like, I love when you interact with the group. I love when you do this and this, but I feel like lately, hey, like it hasn't been there. Are you feeling something? And that sometimes takes it takes quite of confidence to be especially in a big community that I'm in with Matt Balogh, to kind of reach out to the players and be like, hey, are you okay?
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, like, we're a family. Like, we all are in this community where we have a similar interest that we're passionate about. Like, I have no problem being vulnerable because vulnerable brings out friendships and builds different relationships as well.
Okay. So, is there any like dream projects or collaborations that you would love to work on, or is there any creators you'd love to work with?
I'm gonna throw it out here, and this is a high top one, right? I would love to work with Deborah Ann Wall. I love Deborah Ann Wall so much. I think she's a great GM. I think she's a great personality in the space. The way she blew me away in the interview with John. I forgot his last
Bernthal.
name, but yes, the Punisher,
Yeah.
and things like that. And she just like, oh, D&D is this and this and this, and then she's like, you're in a forest. And like and she just goes on and explains it, and he's into it. He's like, oh well, do I hear something familiar? Is it? And like, that's what it's about, is like just bare bones, stripping down all the crap and just putting yourself out there. This is what I love. I'm going to put you in that world. I love her to death.
Yeah. Is there anything else I'm forgetting of that you're coming up and working on? I
the
feel
big
like
things,
there was,
really,
there's something coming up, right?
Looking for More is the big thing that I have going on. And then obviously going through Bloodpunk. Those are typically right now the biggest things I'm working on. There are a few things that I have my eye on. Like, I would love to get into more communities as a player and really just cultivate great stories. Like, that's what I'm really passionate about. Is I love creating collectively with a group. I love crying with others. I love, having those laughs and having those memories. Like, oh, remember when Lamar Test kills Grogu, because that was funny. Sorry, Robin, I didn't mean it. But it happens, like, those are great stories.
Thrive Radio is my note here. What is?
Yes. So actually, that is something I guess I am working on as well. I see comes with the field that's a mile wide and a foot deep, right? So Thrive Radio is a community where so actually I'll revert it back a little bit here. So my online prowess of writing comes from writing blogs, hip hop blogs, right? Because that's how you get it. And that was through the Place for Things. Shout out to Dylan Fout. And we made a very tight knit hip hop blog, which ended up being a like a film director studio. And I just always had that love for music. My
Mhm.
dad is a DJ. My sister's in choir. So I was like, why don't I just create a community that promotes artists that are passionate about what they do. Maybe the genre is more genre bending or it's out there, but it cultivates good vibes, right? It's a community that wants to thrive within itself and continue to grow and relish being positive, right? And that's kind of what I'm doing with Thrive Radio. So releasing good tunes, interviewing local artists, and any artists I can reach that I believe has the passion, and also the just the DNA to be different,
Mhm.
and be able to put themselves out there because it's hard. It's hard to be different, and it's hard to do things that are unconventional because it usually puts a bad taste in people's mouth.
So let me ask you this: what these being two just seemingly very different, passions. What lessons have you learned from one that have helped you with the other?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's really diving into the little spheres, right? Like, going to those places that are the unknown, right? It's going to your local dive bar because you heard that this Midwest emo band is creating a really cool sound. It's going to the lesser known conventions or meetups in your local community for the TTRPGs because you don't know what type of creators are around there.
Mhm.
It's digging deep and trying to find like these nuggets of gold that are sometimes hidden between the dirt because they either don't know that their voices are worth hearing in a grander scale, and because a lot of us are we just don't think like that, right? We're
Right.
like, okay, we're satisfied with getting our show. I do this as a passion, but it's like, oh, like people, this would get through, people through their days if they listen to you.
Yeah.
We sometimes don't understand the impact that we can have with some of our content that we put out.
Well, I think that's a great place to kind of start to wrap this up. And I just want to ask the last question I ask every single creator I have on here: what message or impact do you hope to leave through your content in this space?
Yeah, I mean, if you haven't been able to gather through, I am huge about boosting community and engagement and encouraging everyone, especially those who might be a little shy, to speak up. Your voice matters. Even if you're here just to tell me how Taraske is pronounced,
Yeah.
I get it. It's Tarask. But let's just, roll on, have some fun, keep rolling those dice, and know that your voice matters.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. This has been amazing. I'm so glad we got to dive in, learn all about your backstory. We're gonna open up questions now to the community. If there's anything that you guys feel we didn't get to cover, or any questions you have for Vegas that you want to ask, now's your chance. Start putting those in the chat. While that happens, we are gonna roll into our dicey questions segment. So I hope you have your D20.
I do. I have a few. All right, let's do the rainbow dice first.
All right.
We do it for the quiz. 16.
Oh God, what is your zombie apocalypse survival plan?
Oh my gosh. All right. So I have two coworkers of mine who are married, and they used to be border patrol agents,
Okay.
and they don't have any children, and they live less than a mile from me, and both of them were in the top of their class in shooting, and one of them was the top of their class for like situational driving and like chases and stuff like
Okay.
that, which is the women, by the way. I'm going to their house and we're riding this son of a gun.
Oh,
So
okay.
shout out to Stephanie and Rob. Those are my people. Those are who I'm going to.
All right. Let me get another roll.
All right. Let's go on to my. Oh, that's. Here you go. My obsidian die. That's a natural 20.
Oh, all right.
Oh.
If you had to give a presentation with no preparation time, what would your choice of subject be?
Oh my gosh. All right. So I actually had this happen to me once. So unlike most nerds experience, I was a very popular high school student. I did the whole, I was into sports, so I did the whole prom king thing, and I was also a part of the class officers, right? And I had the last part of the speech for our, end of the year graduating speech. And mind you, my dad had to get me from one of my friends' house because I drank a lot beforehand. Don't encourage it. Don't do it, kids. Bad for you. And I had to wing the last part of the speech, and it had been a rough time for us as seniors. I actually have a tattoo here that says "This too shall pass," and it's in remembrance of one of my old wrestling teammates, Bernard, who died of a heart aneurysm, and we had a few other students that we lost that year. So I kind of really tugged on those heartstrings and brought us together of the common travesties that we've been through, but how it's important to have community and talk to one another and communicate and know that your voice matters. Really, it's like I've been speaking about this my whole life. Like community matters a lot to me, especially as a queer multiracial man. Like it's just like those communities matter because I'm part of so many different communities per se, that the voices matter. No matter what you think you have to say, it needs to be heard.
Okay. Let me get one more roll. Looks like we've got a couple questions coming in.
Yeah, let's do this nice little shiny dice here. So shiny. Oh, a 19. I'm rolling high today.
Yeah. I think we've already answered this, but we're gonna ask anyways, and it can be open to anything in your life. Something you've created that you're really proud of.
Ooh, this is a good one. So I wrote a short story on a day after school in middle school because I decided to be absent for a day that the whole district plus multi districts were writing a short story as a kid's story. They were basically taking like an old tale and making it into a kid's story, like revamping it. And so I skipped on class because I was like, I'm smart. I don't want to do this. I just want to hop out of it. And I came back and my teacher was like, you got to stay after school and do this. So I did it. And I was really into like CSI,
Okay.
Law and Order back then. And so I created the story of Humpty Dumpty, but it was like an investigative Law and Order CSI like breakdown, but it was also like a kid story, I guess. And it won the multi-district award, and I got my book like up in the local bookstore and everything. Yeah, I killed it. It was amazing. I have to find the USB that has that story.
All right. So. I think that's where we're going to call it on dicey questions. We got a couple of questions here from Razzle Dazzles. First one is, Vegas, as a fellow athlete in the RPG community, I got to ask, who is your team of choice?
Oh, wow. So I am from the Chicago area. So I would say that it has to come down to like, I'll give you my top three: Bears, Cubs, Bulls. There you go.
We're gonna just move on here. I'm a New Yorker, okay?
I didn't mean to hurt anybody's feelings. Okay, I have my own mic. Sorry.
Actually, I did want to ask a question. You said you played rugby. What position?
Oh wow! Basically all the forward positions except the hooker.
I was a
If you
hooker.
guys don't know who the hooker is, yeah, you look like a hooker. It's the guy in the middle that are propped up by these two props,
Yeah,
and he
big
kicks the
motherfuckers.
little ball. Yeah. That's what the hooker does. He hooks with his feet. I played all mostly lock
Okay.
and flanker.
Did you play 7s or 14s? Says it 14s? It's been a while since I played.
15s, yeah. I did play when I was faster. I played 7s. It's been quite some time. But I'm actually, we have a season going on right now in
Nice.
my team. Shout out to the Yotes, Lake County Coyotes. We are third right now in the
Nice.
Midwest Rugby Union. So I didn't play last year, and currently I can't feel my pinky and ring finger because I have some ulnar nerve damage. But
Yep.
hey,
Yep.
whatever.
That's always fun.
Yeah.
What is your favorite choose your own adventure book?
Wow. Okay. So I was definitely into like the generic, like choose your own adventure books with like the Paul Granger, like, white background. But I do remember one in particular, and I felt like this was gonna come up. It was Deadwood City.
Okay.
Which was basically like an old west, like so I grew up watching a lot of westerns with my grandfather, and so this was like an old west style choose your own adventure, and that was real fun.
Nice.
I like that one
All right. Favorite character you've ever played?
Oh man, okay. Razzle, yeah. Razzle wants me to say Thola. And Thola is a pretty big, pivotal character in our community. And things about characters I play is I like to play characters with juxtaposition. So she's this like Caribbean woman that is a Cleric of peace, but she works up the goddess of death.
Okay.
But my favorite character was in one of these fables, the Citadel of the Unseen Sun. I played Lamartes, who was a disembodied. So what happened with the disembodied is that they were one of the few that were in a college of wizard town, right? And these wizards tried to open up a portal to a different plane. Instead, they all got sucked up, right? And the disembodies, they have like this tie to this plane, but we're still able to get onto the material plane. So I use that race and the Sangromancy wizard that Ghostfire Gaming has, which is like this blood wizard. So the fact that he kind of used this blood magic to tie himself to the material plane, and why he was all about self-preservation and accidentally killed one of his compatriots, right? Someone that he didn't mean to, but they were effects under the full moon and turned, right? Like there's these things that happened in that campaign that were really dark and deep, and he was one of those characters that when the BBEG was like, hey, I just want this and you can leave, he was like, fine, take it, I'm gone, that's all I wanted, and he left. And he actually brought another person with him that people weren't expecting to do it. But he was always about self-preservation and helping those that have been lost in those other planes. So definitely one of my favorite characters that I played.
Is that on a stream anywhere that people can check him out?
You can find that on a Sunday stream for on Citadel of the Unseen Sun under GM Matt Balogh. You can definitely find me playing Lamartes.
All right.
And I also don't die. So you guys, if you watch me playing a character, I'm probably playing that character the whole time.
All right, I'm gonna post up all your socials that you sent me, and I'm gonna post your link tree for everyone. You could check Vegas out. Yeah, go ahead and tell everyone where they can find you.
Yeah, I'm excited again. My name is Jalen, and it was a pleasure having you guys here. Please come reach out to me looking for more TV on YouTube, VagusTheWanderer on Instagram, and most social media that you have on your little tablet phone devices. Find me, reach out. Let's create something together. Let's continue looking for more.
People looking to reach out to you in the creative sense, you want through your Instagram?
Yeah. Reach out to me, Vegas the Wanderer,
Okay.
on Instagram. Yeah, we want to create something. We can get into new games, or we can even talk about some games. Right? I'm all about it.
All right. Well, thank you so much. This has been an amazing interview. Love talking to you. Love hearing about your passion. It was really nice to be able to hear someone that loves the community building aspect of things. So that was really refreshing.
I
Um,
appreciate it. Thank you.
Besides that, I think that's all we've got for tonight. Next week, I'm interviewing. Let me check my schedule. Got a lot of people lined up. Next week, we are interviewing GM Justin. He's been on Goodberry Cafe before, so we're going to dive into his backstory. We have this Monday, part 2 of our Forging Fates recap. It's the little over 2 years. So we're just recapping 66 episodes down into these 2 chunks for everyone to catch up and join in on the adventure so far. Wednesday, we have Queer and Present Danger. And that's it for next week. I've got nothing else. If you've got nothing else,
No, Joe, I just appreciate you for your time, man.
thank you so much. I really appreciate this. This has been amazing. And remember, we love you, geeks. Good night.